let's reflect further on this developing situation in the company of Conservative peer and leading pollster Lord Hayward. Good morning, Lord Hayward.
Good morning.
Well, you won't have specific polling about the possible candidacy of Angela Rayner entering number 10 in the late summer of this year, but it's quite clear, is it not, that Sir Keir Starmer's days are numbered, and we've seen that prior to this Mandelson scandal.
I think you have to be cautious about that. Politicians of all political persuasions have the capacity to stay on longer than many people expect. There is no doubt that Keir Starmer is in extreme difficulties at the moment, and the fact that the Labour Party, you as journalists, etc., are casting around in one direction or another to see who might be the alternative is an indication of the scale of the problem that Keir Starmer is in. What we'll see over the next few days is the MPs, Labour MPs, going back to their constituencies, discussing matters, moving away from the Westminster bubble. And then the first clear next step will be next Monday, Tuesday, as people return with a sense of what the state of play is.
If you look at low economic growth, the growing cost of the debt and the cost of government borrowing, clearly a lot of the policies have failed. In particular, those two disastrous budgets, Lord Hayward. But notwithstanding policy issues and many U-turns, it seems that Sir Keir Starmer just isn't very good at politics either.
Please call me Robert, by the way. But no, Keir Starmer is notable in that he is not a natural politician. He spent his whole time outside politics until he came into Parliament, involved in the law in one form or another. He could, and I've actually thought the case would be that rather than being forced out, he would actually choose a decision at some point just to say, I didn't want this isn't my natural media, I want to go away and I'll leave it to other people to become, or another person to become a prime minister. So I think it is quite possible that he might walk away. He might walk away now. He might do so after the Gorton and Denton by-election if that goes wrong, or alternatively after the May the 7th elections. And there are many people in the Labour Party who thought that the summer would be the crunch time for him. But you're right. He's had it's not just the failing figures that you identified, it's the chronic series of U-turns which this government has had, which the vast majority of voters actually associate him with, whether it's winter fuel or you just go on down the list.
Most definitely. You mentioned that he might fall on his sword. Could he go the other way and dig in? Could he threaten to call a general election if there's a move against him?
Oh, that's always the tactic of a prime minister who is in real difficulties. He or she and their supporters turn round and say, well, if you don't like me, we'll call a general election, in the full knowledge that large numbers of Labour MPs would lose their seats, having only just won them some almost a year and a half ago. So that's the threat of a really failing politician. And the moment you hear that, you know that they're in really serious trouble.
Indeed. Now, 50%, over half of Brits do want the Prime Minister to quit. And this is across the political spectrum, isn't it? Lots of those Labour voters with significant buyer's regret now, Robert.
Absolutely. And when you say over half the voters, it's worth bearing in mind that a quarter of the voters, roughly, actually said they don't know. So the ratio of those who have a view is stark, and it's 2-1 against Keir Starmer staying as Prime Minister. Having said that, what is interesting about the poll that you're quoting from is that roughly in the case of Labour voters, they are split 1-for-1. Those who want to see him go are matched roughly by those who don't. What, of course, we don't know amongst those who don't want him to go, although is why they don't want him to go. It may be that their alternative isn't available, that they can't see an alternative. So there may be a myriad of reasons why people don't want him to go at this particular point. But it is striking that the public in general have made up their mind. They want him to go and they'd like him to go now. What I think we will see over the next few days is actually, I think those figures will harden.
No potential leaders, potential replacements for Starmer would want to be in post prior to the May local elections bloodbath, would they?
They wouldn't mind if they've got the role of leader. What they can then say is, well, that's all to do with the voters' decisions about the previous Prime Minister, the previous leadership. So it would be written in to taking on the role. And in many ways, that would probably be an ideal state of play for them.
Would the whole cabinet change if a new Prime Minister entered number 10, do you think? Robert?
No, that's a decision for an incoming Prime Minister. Any incoming Prime Minister can say, I want to change a lot of roles, or I don't want to change a lot of roles. It's actually bad for government to change too many roles of ministers, because a minister takes a long time to get a grip on the department. And I, as a cynic, believe that you do actually need a minister to be there for a long time, because otherwise you're run by the civil service. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, an even more risky position. So it's up to the Prime Minister, but I would recommend that they don't actually change that many ministerial positions if it should happen.
Particularly in the Home Office, I would suggest, Robert. Can I ask you about any future potential leadership elections? Sadly, my viewers and listeners won't have a say. And the constituency is a very left-wing one, isn't it? Those backbenchers, of course, resisted quite modest reforms to the scope and scale of welfare benefits in relation to disabled people. The grassroots are on the left as well. So any replacement to the Prime Minister is probably going to be to the left of him, would you say?
It's likely, but having said that, there have been the Labour Party, rather like the Conservative Party in the middle of its troubles a few years ago, has lost large numbers of its members. And many of the people who've left the Labour Party are actually on the left, and they've gone off and joined your party, Jeremy Corbyn's team, or alternatively the Greens, or just dropped out of politics as well. So it is likely that they'd be more left-wing inclined, but I think there's a fair amount of clear evidence that actually the left have probably moved on to other parties in many ways, in many cases.
What could happen to the economy under a more left-wing Prime Minister, though, Lord Hayward, if it was Ed Miliband, Angela Rayner, or someone of their ilk from the so-called soft left of the party? What might the implications for the economy be, do you think?
You're asking somebody who's very much on the right when it comes to the economy. As far as I'm concerned, the results would be disastrous.
Well, the bond markets won't wear it, will they?
There is every possibility that the city would probably stop some of the more extreme measures, but we're already facing a real set of problems. The growth for the economy was downgraded yesterday by the Bank of England. Joblessness is rising. There are all sorts of problems associated with the economy. And as I say, the risk of a further drift to the left, expressing a personal view here, would be even greater.
Robert, a pleasure to have you on the show. Very much enjoyed our conversation. Lord Robert Hayward, Conservative peer and leading pollster.